So as a cis white woman, how do you actively resist and participate without having your voice be prioritized over those who are more marginalized? How do you recognize your white privilege while simultaneously not staying silent?
I think that if you have the idea that, am I taking up too much space, then you're probably right. I think it requires you to have hard discussions with other white people. I think if you have the ability to put a platform together and step back, then do that. You gotta check your friends. And it can't just be like, oh, I have that really weird uncle that says things that are so rude at Thanksgiving. Like, you gotta be uncomfortable. You gotta be okay with being uncomfortable.
I'd like to also add to that. During the Women's March, a lot of the white women had never organized before, and of course people said, we're following women of color, but that really wasn't necessarily what was happening, particularly because we as women of color have been fighting so much every single day. We fight alongside our brothers that are incarcerated, you know, our fathers that are not getting paid for their work. There's so many movements that happened previously, and I think people just step up and feel like, I want to help. Well, there's something about helping and actually really being in solidarity with someone. And I think, you know, just have courageous conversations with other white people, understand the pain that we as women of color and just individuals of color are constantly facing. And if you have resources, bring that to the cause, because we also need resources.
I think it's important to think about it on a daily level and not just about the optics of an event, or how do we make sure we don't look racist in this moment and not take up space in this moment, but ask ourselves on the day-to-day, how are we working to end systemic racism, both within the women's movement and outside of it. And I think we can do a lot by acknowledging the harms of white supremacy as women, as trans people, as activists, and stop gaslighting people of color and acting like it's not real. And I think, and then not stigmatizing and shaming the emotional response to gaslighting, and acting like that's people of color are just being disruptive of the event, or why are you not just participating, and asking those types of questions.
We can look around and take diversity of tactics seriously, and that means, especially as people with white privilege, taking it seriously to know that other people can't always take the risks that you can, immigrants can't always take the risks that you can, and those have to be ongoing conversations.
In an attempt at intersectionality, there's a lot of making everything the same. We're not the same. That's why we're in this predicament in the first place. I think in order to have a real intersectional movement, whether it be in feminism or anything else, we need to recognize that we're not the same, and we need to recognize that some differences also come with a lot of ugly baggage.
That's right.
Like when speaking from a Muslim woman's standpoint, there's a lot of stuff we need to sort out in our community. It's not gonna help if somebody from the outside comes in and says, hey, I'm here to help. What we need from the outside, or someone who has privilege and they recognize that they have privilege, is to understand that they are different from us and that they have that power and privilege, and then to use it. Don't be ashamed of your power and privilege. I think that will be a greater hindrance to you than anything. So own it, own what you have, and then use it to advance a collective cause.
I think that the other thing that's so important is to not only show up when it's something that impacts you. So in my community, you know, we feel very much like we may have this feminism movement that we all work towards, but then an Eric Garner situation happens, a Sean Bell situation happens, Philando Castile happens, and then we know that's not your issue. We have to be out on the forefront for that. So in this movement of equality, to face and to have authenticity to your participation, it's powerful to know that we were at the Women's March together, and that we were on an issue together that impacted a community of color, that impacted the Black Lives Matter movement, that impacted a mom who's grieving. It impacts a Sandra Bland. Are you there then as well? And when you show up then also, then I welcome you in a spirit of sisterhood and camaraderie, and we can move forward together, and we are breaking boundaries just by you being there for each of those things.